Hello, everyone. This is Keith Stone with the Center for Hellenic Studies, and I'm here with Greg Nagy and Janet and Elaine and Sarah for another installment of HeroesX Office Hours. This is V11 of HeroesX, the HeroesX project. And today we're discussing the discussion questions for hours 3 and 4. And they're both about Achilles, these two questions. The first one for hour 3 is, in another world, divorced from the world of the Iliad, could you imagine a man like Achilles falling in love with a woman like Andromache? And the second one is, if you have developed a liking for Achilles as you read more and more of the Iliad, what new thing would you still need to see if you wanted to like him even more? Alternatively, if you have already developed a dislike for him, would there be any new thing about him that could possibly turn you around so that you would actually start to like him? And I think the joke here is that almost everyone dislikes Achilles.
Yes, that is the joke.
Yes.
And I'm trying to get people to like him, or at least to be understanding about ancient Greek song culture, that people did like him. And even
Greeks loved
better, can I put it in a personalized way? I don't like to talk about it this way, but Sappho liked him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an important part of reading the epic is to understand that he is like the favorite character, and he's been done wrong, and that's what happens in the Iliad. He's not necessarily, well, let's get into that.
Let's not even go there yet.
Once we get to hour 4. So the first one, in another world, could you imagine Achilles falling in love with Andromache, more or less? Could I ask the three of you, Janet, Elaine, Sarah, what did folks have to say about this?
Well, I think it's a very challenging question, and because you have to put your imagination at work to answer it. You have to go back to a time before the War of Troy, when there was peace between the Greeks and the Trojans and their allies. But why not? I mean, Achilles was a young prince.
Yeah.
He could have visited Athens, and then we could have met Andromache, who has, after all, the name of an Amazon, as some of the participants noticed that it's the name of an Amazon.
Good.
One of the participants said Andromache was his type. So
I love that. I love that. Oh, that's so beautiful. And that's, I think, very, very true to the tradition, and I'll explain later, but I'd love to hear more views. But let's go back to that lovely observation about Andromache is Achilles' type.
How do we know that? I wonder. Was there anything along with that comment, Janet?
I think it goes to Penthesilea. She's an Amazon, and they said Andromache is an Amazon, that strong woman. So the connection.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, because I think that the same participant is also writing about her physical appearance that would attract Achilles, because she is like an Amazon.
Yes. Well, I think these participants are right on the beam. And the inspiration for my question did have to do with even the name of Andromache is an Amazon name. Andromache means the one who fights men. In other words, the one who fights male opponents. That's what the name means. And I'm so glad that one particular participant connected Penthesilea, who is the Amazon famous for being killed by Achilles. And as we know from not just the plot outlines from the ancient world, but even paintings that represent the moment that I'm about to describe, as we know, at the precise moment that Achilles succeeds in killing in a one-on-one mortal combat, Penthesilea, he falls in love with her as their eyes meet for, I guess, the first time. And then he just cannot forgive himself. He is so sad, and we'll leave the rest for further conversations. But certainly, in my mind, Andromache herself is like a Penthesilea figure, not so much in the Iliad. Well, in fact, in the Iliad, that aspect of Andromache is shaded over, but it's still there. You notice how she knows exactly what to feed the chariot horses of Hector, for example. She knows all sorts of military secrets. She knows the place in the Trojan wall where the city is vulnerable to siege, and the list goes on.
Greg, can I ask, you were talking about that moment of the eye contact with Achilles and Penthesilea.
Yes.
So might one infer that that is a mutual attraction?
I wish I could be sure, but certainly the way she looks at him, reciprocating the way he looks at her in those vase paintings, suggests mutual attraction, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Because some of the participants were also thinking about the flip side to that question. Would Andromache have fallen for a man like Achilles?
Well, I hate to bring this up, but certainly she becomes the trophy wife of the son of Achilles. And I really can't tell on the basis of Euripides's drama whether she feels any attraction towards Achilles' son, Neoptolemus, aka Pyrrhus. But I could imagine various traditions where she might have.
I think they're also thinking in terms of other captive women, Briseis' situation and so forth.
It's certainly true that Briseis seems to be, shall we say, receptive to the idea of, at least to the idea of Achilles being attracted to her. And I'm gathering that's the gist of her lament, when she laments technically for Patroclus, but maybe underneath the surface for the gentle side of Achilles, which is not very overt in the Iliad, but may have been overt elsewhere.
How about Briseis? Is Briseis a different type than Andromache? Briseis is not an Amazon kind of name or
I agree.
personality, because Achilles at least says that he's falling in love with her.
Yes, I agree that she doesn't seem to be. On the other hand, okay, here I go. I'll try to make a case for it, though, which is that her name, Briseis, has to do with a root, B-R-I, which conveys the kind of brutal strength in war that Achilles has, as opposed to Chryseis, who is assigned to Agamemnon as his trophy wife or trophy woman, let's say. Chryseis has to do with what Georges Dumézil, in his analysis of how warriors are classed in traditional poetry, Chryseis would be first function, Briseis would be second function. And second function has to do with war and warfare. So in a sense, the name of Briseis does suggest an Amazon like dimension.
Okay. That's great to know. I never knew that.
Well, could Andromache be called the best of the Trojan women then, or of the women in the Iliad?
I think she's the best because I'm just saying my opinion here. She is the most virtuoso singer of laments and therefore of love songs. She's the best singer. And I'm not being trivial when I say she has the best hairdo in all of Homeric poetry. When her hair comes undone, it's the most elaborate hairdo that you'll see anywhere for any woman. So if we think in terms of Italian opera, she would definitely be the #1 diva.
And she's married to the best of the Trojans.
Of the Trojans, and yeah.
Something too.
And there's a big deal made of how Trojan women are more aristocratic than Achaean women. I think that's very clear. That's already clear in the Iliad. And then people like Euripides really pick up on it later, that they're just very attractive women and very aristocratic. Can I say it this way? Very classy.
One participant is talking about whether she would have Kleos by being sung about in the Iliad itself.
Oh yeah. Oh, if I may say, everybody gets Kleos. Even if you're the bit player, you get Kleos. It's just a very powerful medium to get into. So if you're in, you'd be content even if you just take your bow and leave again, as in the case of Iphidamas, who is a Trojan who dies and doesn't really do much other than dying in the Iliad. And then the poet asks, well, why did he come to fight at Troy? Answer, it's because he wanted to get into the Kleos of the Achaeans. It's worth dying for, even for a bit player, a Trojan bit player, and of course for Andromache, who is such a star in the Iliad. Of course, she is a hero in every sense of the word. I just assume, of course, this goes without saying, that any hero can have a hero cult. Any character in the Iliad is likely to have had a hero cult. But now I'm talking about hero in the modern sense of a main character. So in every which way, Andromache, I think, is heroic.
Well, how about the next question for hour 4 about liking Achilles and liking him more, or disliking him but turning around and starting to like him?
I'm dying to hear the survey of participants' views on this one.
They don't seem to like Achilles a lot.
Oh dear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So was there anything that could turn anybody around to liking Achilles?
Well, I think that reading Pindar, you read Isthmian 8,
Yeah.
and there you have Achilles being, a hero, and Pindar celebrates his Kleos.
Yeah.
So I think that by reading Pindar, you
Yes.
yeah, and Sappho, of course.
And Sappho. That's why I started at the beginning with Sappho. I say, how can you argue with Sappho?
One of the participants said, I like him, but I like to see his humorous side more.
Well, it is true. We've got to hand it to our dear participants that the Iliad does not focus on the sides of Achilles that other traditions did focus on, which would make him more attractive to us. For example, tenderness as a lover. We barely see any of it. When he says, oh, I've started to like Briseis as if she were my wife, that just doesn't wash with us moderns. It's like saying too little, too late. But I think for the ancient Greek song culture, there was a lot of very romantic stuff about Achilles. So he comes into this Iliad of ours as supposedly a very likable figure already. How could they do something so nasty to somebody that we like so much in our song culture? that should be our attitude if we had as much knowledge of the ancient Greek song culture as the ancient Greeks did.
Well, you'll be pleased to hear there is at least one vote for Achilles, or at least for some of his qualities. For example, his skills, not just as a warrior, but political acumen and his behavior in the assembly compared to Agamemnon.
Yes.
He's a loyal friend. He listens to the embassy despite the quarrel and so forth. So there's a bit more of a side to him rather than just a fighting person, and those qualities.
And could we say this is where we should just give credit to this wonderful book by Richard P. Martin called The Language of Heroes, 1989, where he shows that the same qualities that we admire about Homer, or let's call him the master narrator, are qualities that are demonstrated by Achilles himself whenever he speaks. And of course, when he speaks, when he's quoted, he's speaking poetry, just as Homer is speaking poetry in the master story, the master narrative. But to give an example, if you have any other speaker talking about A, B, and C, it'll look like this. Let's see if I can do it. So here's A, here's B, and here's C. And it's a kind of exercise where A gets more squeezed, B gets less squeezed, and then C gets really expanded. When Achilles does the same thing, he will do A, just barely any space at all, B, just any space, and C like this. In other words, Achilles can compress and expand with more virtuosity than any other speaker. And then you can say, well, that's what also happens with the Iliad and the Odyssey. The Iliad is 15,000 plus verses long, and you could do an Iliad that's 10 verses long. The Odyssey is what, 12,000 plus verses long. And again, you could do an Odyssey that's 6 or 7 verses. Again, extreme expansion, extreme compression. And so in a sense, Achilles is the most Homeric of all Homeric characters. And that means he is most admired for the poetry that he can do within the Iliad, just as we admire Homer, that is to say, the poet of the Iliad and the Odyssey, in comparison to all other epics that we in song culture, number 13, dated to, I'm doing a cross section here, dated to, I don't know, 600 BCE. Oh no, let's make it 550 BCE, would imagine. So we've got to like Achilles for his Homeric qualities of making poetry within the poetry of the Iliad. There, I've said it and I don't regret it. But I'm also resigned that most of our friends who get their first exposure, even second and third and fourth exposures, I can't expect people to like him. I admit that. But it's because we are we and they were they.
Mm-hmm. There was something that I learned once from our colleague Lenny Milner.
Yes.
I think I actually learned it via you, Greg, but
let's give it to Lenny. I'm sure he said it better.
Lenny credit for it. It was that it wasn't just Agamemnon who did wrong to Achilles, but all of the Greeks who didn't stand up for Achilles.
Yes. I think Lenny says it beautifully in his book on Achilles' anger, and so does David Elmer in The Poetics of Consent, that more recent book. I think Lenny and David, if you read those two books by Lenny and David, it really shows you that this character was really let down by his own people.
Mm-hmm. Right. The rest of the Greeks aren't just kind of innocent bystanders.
Oh no.
Getting, the bad effects of the quarrel
no.
with Agamemnon and Achilles, but they're part of it.
And that's why Achilles says already in Iliad 1, I think there's a British popular singer who has this as the title of his song, "You're Gonna Miss Me. When I die, you're really going to miss me. You didn't treat me well when I was alive." Who is the singer? Does anybody know? We'll ask the participants.
I don't know that one.
In our song culture, "You're gonna miss me." But that's what he says. That's what Achilles says when he throws down the scepter. He says, "Oh, you're going to be hurting, and oh, you're going to miss me."
Mm-hmm. And I think that we return to that in our 12 or so when we start talking about hero cults.
Oh, yes.
But we'll save that.
We'll save it. Save it for later.
Is there anything else we should say this time?
I think we should say goodbye.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
No, I'm going to say no, but you're right. You should say something, you wonderful poor people. But I'm going to say nothing more.
Okay.
Oh, I'm just going to add that in Pindar, I always go back to Pindar. The people are proud to have Achilles as their ancestor.
Yes, yes.
Very proud. So
that's beautiful. Yeah.
And I should give credit to one of the participants who's also thinking about the original audience for this, who would be sympathizing with Achilles because they know that whole story, and so they're connecting with the story.
Lovely.
Well, I guess let's wrap it up for this time. So, Greg, thank you. Sarah.
Thank you all. Thank you for letting me vent about how we should like Achilles more. But we can't.
We'll see how it goes by the end of the Iliad.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Until next time for hours 5 and 6. Bye now.